So, good day everyone. I am going to tackle the part 2 in the topic of McCrae and Costa's 5-factor theory of trait. So, my topic are the Big Five taxonomy or theory, biographies of Robert R. McCrae and Paul T. Costa Jr. in search of the five, the Big Five, and the evolution of the 5-factor theory. The Big Five taxonomy or theory. Personality traits as revealed by factor analysis. This work soon evolved into a taxonomy and the 5-factor model became theory. Biographies of Robert R. McCrae and Paul T. Costa Jr. So, who is Robert R. McCrae? Robert R. McCrae, born on April 28, 1949, in Maryville, Missouri, the youngest of three children born to Andrew McCrae and Eloise Elaine McCrae, have an avid interest in science and mathematics. Studies in philosophy in Michigan State University. Went to Boston University for graduate school, major in psychology. A fellow of the American Psychological Society and Division 20, Adult Development and Aging of the American Psychological Association. McCrae earned his PhD in personality psychology at Boston University in 1976. He taught and conducted research at Boston University, the Veterans Administration Outpatient Clinic in Boston, and the University of Massachusetts at Boston. He joined the Gerontology Research Center at the National Institute on Aging, where he continues to conduct research today in 1978, a Fellow of the Gerontological Society of America, a Fellow of the American Psychological Society and Division 20, Adult Development and Aging of the American Psychological Association. So, who is Paul T. Costa? Paul T. Costa is born on September 16, 1942 in Franklin, New Hampshire. Earned a PhD in Human Development from the University of Chicago in 1970. Taught for 2 years at Harvard University and then joined the faculty of the University of Massachusetts at Boston. He joined the National Institute on Aging, a branch of the National Institutes of Health, in 1978. He has been the chef of the Laboratory of Personality and Cognition Gerontology Research Center in 1985. He also earned a PhD in Human Development from the University of Chicago in 1970, taught for 2 years at Harvard University, and then joined the faculty of the University of Massachusetts at Boston. Joined the National Institute on Aging, a branch of the National Institutes of Health, 1978, has been the chef of the Laboratory of Personality and Cognition Gerontology Research Center, 1985, holds appointments at the University of Maryland, Duke University Medical Center, the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine, and the Georgetown University School of Medicine. Among numerous awards, has been elected as a Fellow of the Gerontological Society of America, the American Psychological Association, and the Society of Behavioral Medicine. Has published hundreds of research articles, many of them in collaboration with Robert McCrae. McCrae and Costa collaboration, over 200 co-authored research articles and chapters, and several books. Revised Neo-Personality Inventory, 1992. In Search of the Big Five. The study of traits was first begun by Albert and Albert in the 1930s and continued by Cattell in the 1940s and by Tupes, Crystal Underman in the 1960s. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Costa and McCrae, like most other factor researchers, were building elaborate taxonomies of personality traits, but they were not using these classifications to generate testable hypotheses. Instead, they were simply using factor analytic techniques to examine the stability and structure of personality. Costa and McCrae continue to develop the Big Five factor. So, the next part is the description of the five factors. McCrae and Costa agreed with Ising that personality traits are bipolar and follow a bell-shaped distribution. Most people score near the middle of each trait, with only a few people scoring at the extreme. So we have here neuroticism. Sensitive, nervous versus secure, confident. High neuroticism is characterized by the tendency to experience unpleasant emotions such as anger, anxiety, depression, or vulnerability. Neuroticism also refers to an individual degree of emotional stability and impulse control. Some common examples of neurotic behavior can include intense anxiety or panic in non-treating social situation like going out to eat or a work function or a friendly gathering. So we have here extroversion, outgoing, energetic versus solitarily reserved. An individual who scores high on extroversion is characterized by high energy, positive emotions, talkativeness, assertiveness, sociability, and the tendency to seek stimulation in the company of others. For example of extroversion, example nalaan, I feel comfortable around people or I start conversations, I talk to a lot of different people at parties, or I don't mind being the center of attention. So we have also openness to experience, inventive, curious versus consistent cautions. Openness to experience distinguish people who prefer variety from those who have a need for closure and who gain comfort in their association with familiar people and things. People who consistently seek out different and varied experience would score high on openness to experience. Example of this is you are willing to try new things like an exotic dish or travel to a strange place or land. So the next one is agreeableness. Agreeableness is dimension includes attributes such as trust, altruism, kindness, affection, and other prosocial behaviors. People who are high in agreeableness tend to be more cooperative, while those low in this trait tend to be more competitive and sometimes even manipulative. Example of being a cooperative, polite, or kind, or a friendly person. So the last one that we have in the big five is conscientiousness. Efficient, organized versus easygoing, careless. Include high levels of thoughtfulness, good impulse control, and goal-directed behaviors. Highly conscientious people tend to be organized and mindful of details. They plan ahead, think about how their behavior affects others, and are mindful of deadlines. Conscientiousness is a trait that is commonly associated with awareness. Example, a student always comes to class at a time or varies with all the necessary items needed to participate, has organized things. So, the big five personality traits in the five factor model, each person has five traits: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, which are scored on a continuum from high to low. In the center column, notice that the first letter of each trait spells the mnemonic ocean. So, the evolution of the five factor theory. Originally, the five factors constituted nothing more than a taxonomy, classification of basic personality traits. By late 1980s, Costa and McCrae became confident that that they and other researchers had found a stable structure of personality. Units of the five-factor theory. In the personality theory of McCrae and Costa 1996, 1999, and 2003, behavior is predicted by an understanding of three central or core components and three peripheral ones. The three central components include basic tendency, characteristic adaptations, and the self-concept. Basic tendency, the universal raw material of personality capacities and dispositions that are generally inferred rather than observed. The second one is the characteristic adaptation, is acquired personality structures that develop as people adapt to their environment. And the last one is the self concept. The beliefs, attitudes, and feelings one has toward oneself are characteristic adaptation in that they influence how one behaves in a given circumstances. So the last topic that I am going to tackle is about the peripheral components. The three peripheral components are biological basis, objective biography, and external influences. So biological basis is the principal biological mechanisms that influence basic tendency, our genes, hormones, and brain structure. And objective biography defined as everything the person does, thinks, or feels across the whole lifespan. And the last one is the external influences, the question of how we respond to the opportunities and demands of the context is what external influences is all about. And that's all. Thank you for listening.